being gone and not being able to have little extra activities to give you in between. So bear with me as I learn how to do this. But you can always pause it and rewind when you have to catch up with notes. So piecewise functions sort of goes along with this idea of step functions because there are pieces to the function. Now piecewise functions are functions that are created from pieces of your basic functions. So for instance, taking a look here at these examples, notice that you've got two functions, two basic functions. You've got f of x equals 2x minus 1, f of x equals 3x plus 1. Now we're going to use this function 2x minus 1 when x is less than or equal to 1, and when x is greater than 1, we are going to use this 3x plus 1. So sometimes what I do, this is why pencils work really nicely when you're graphing. For this one, what I'm going to do is I am going to start graphing this bottom one just because I want to remember to use an open circle here for this one. So I know that my graph is going to start at the positive 1 on the y-axis, and I'm going to need to make that circle just a tiny bit smaller. It's kind of way too big here. So I'm going to start at 1 and then look at the slope. The slope is I'm going to need another point at 3 units up and 1 unit to the right. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 1 to the right. Now then I'm going to do the same thing. Another one would be up 1, 2, 3, and 1 to the right. Now the interesting thing here is that if I draw the line in for this graph, using a line, I am going to have a line that looks something like this. The bottom part might be off just a little bit. Now, sticky notes are kind of good for covering things up, but if I had a pencil, which I don't have here, but I can take care of it, I want only x's that are greater than 1. Well, x is equal to 1 right here, so this line, I would erase it back to this point right here, and that's where my open circle needs to be, is right there where it's where x is 1. So I don't need this here. So here is where I'm going to start it at 1 and go where my x's are bigger than 1. Now when x is less than or equal to 1, so now I need this to be filled in, and if I start this one has my y-intercept at -1, so -1 is right about here, and the slope now is 2, so it goes, now if I went up 2 and over to the right 1, that's fine, but I'm also going to go down 2 and to the left. Hopefully you see why I'm doing that, because I'll wait a second and let you think for a second while I'm putting this in here. And again, my line is going to look something like, it's going to come from, let's see, here, and go through these points like this. And the issue here is that I don't want x's that are equal to 1 or 2. I need x's that are equal to 1 or less. So I am going to have it start right there, and that's where the closed circle, less than or equal to, open circle here, and that function has now been graphed, that piecewise function. So it jumps like the step function does here, and it is a function because if I put in or use the vertical line test, the vertical line test here shows me that if I put a vertical line right through here, it doesn't touch, that vertical line doesn't touch the x-axis, or not the x-axis, but it doesn't hit the graph more than once if I had a nice straight line, because it doesn't hit right here. It only hits here. So find f of -1. Well, that means when I put in a -1, which of these two functions am I going to use? Well, I'm going to use the top one. So f of -1 would be 2 times -1 would be -2, minus 1 would give me -3. So your function value here would be -3. When you put in 2, 2 is bigger than 1, so you're going to use this function. So it would be 6 plus 1 is going to give you 7. So, and if you look on your graph, sure enough, that's where when you put in 2 and you look up here, you have that point at 7. And that little thing should be filled in because of the line. So hopefully that makes some sense there. So I'll do this one really quickly, this piecewise function. This piecewise function doesn't have any sort of parent function because it changes all the time. So part 2, continuation is these piecewise functions. Now your parabola, and I'll do my best to draw this, folks, if your x is less than 1, so when x is less than 1 means I'm going to use an open circle here, and I know that I would start at 0, 0, and I would go left 1 and up 1. I would go left 2 and up 4, and so left 3 and up 9, so somewhere up in here if I wanted to be really good. So this function, or this part of the graph that I'm going to use, let's see if I can try that again a little bit better, and maybe if I go from this side it'll look better, is going to look more like this, just not quite as squiggly. And this says that if x is greater than or equal to 1, I'm going to use this x plus 4. So remember that that means that your y-intercept is going to be, for this one, it's going to be, let's see, it's going to be 4. So I'm going to come up here to 4 and put that there. I'm going to probably get rid of that in a few minutes. But, and then my slope is 4 over 1, so it's pretty steep. It's going to go up 4 and to the right 1. So this one, I don't really quite have enough room on my graph. It would go up 4 again and to the right 1. So somewhere maybe about like this. So we'll see if I can draw this line and see what happens when I do. It's going to, what I've got right now is it's starting here and going through these points, and it's not going to exist here where x is equal to 0, so I need to get rid of that point, and I need to have it start right here. And so when I evaluate these two these two places, then I'm looking at when f of -7. So when I put in -7, I'm going to use the top function. So that will give me a positive 49. And when f is equal to 4, you're going to use this function here. So you should get 8. So that concludes the lesson on piecewise functions. So you should be able to continue with your homework. So your homework is the lesson 3 homework for step functions and piecewise functions. So I look forward to another lesson with you tomorrow. Have a great day. Make sure you finish your homework because Coach Suggs will be collecting it for you.